Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast, is brought to you by eMenu Choice Point of Sale and Clark Pro. Welcome to Tips from Trestle, the Senior Living Food and Hospitality podcast. This podcast explores the senior living industry with a unique focus on food, hospitality, and the community experience. I'm your host, Aaron Fish. My goal for this podcast: educate, inform, and inspire leaders in senior living. How? By bringing the resident and customer experience to the front of mind in our industry. We should bring the passionate spirit of food and hospitality to everything that we do and everyone we serve each and every day. So what are we waiting for? Let's get to it. Today on Tips from Trestle, I'm joined by Jason Smith. Jason is the VP of Amenities at Shell Point Retirement Community here in Florida. Oh, Jason, thanks for joining us today.
Oh, thanks for having me, Aaron.
Well, first, tell us a little bit about your experience here at the conference.
It's been a great experience. So it's one thing that I'm so thankful that this organization exists, because from a hotel and resort background, we were so connected with different hotels. And then coming into senior living and senior dining, it's sad because there isn't an opportunity to connect and be able to share best practices. And this organization and this conference serves just that. Yeah. So I'm very thankful to talk to some of these other industry leaders, hear what they're going through, some of the struggles that they're going through, and then I'm really inspired of where they're going in the future and seeing some of the lofty goals that they have and learning from them as well. So
and I love having the ability to have kind of all levels and layers too, right? Like you've got VP of Amenities, which I'm going to ask you about in a second, all the way down to we've got executive chefs and sous chefs here. And so we're all here learning and understanding what we're all going through. I think it's great. And so
we have a community just down the street from us, Cypress Cove, and we don't get to talk to them so much. And I just met 3 of their staff members today.
Oh, nice. Very cool.
Even though we're 5 miles apart.
Right. Well, that's what happens when you get into the day-to-day. So tell us a little bit about Shell Point. I know that a lot of people know about Shell Point because it's such a big community. Yeah. And then tell us about your role, because VP of Amenities is definitely not a title you hear very often in our world.
Yeah, no, definitely. So a little bit about Shell Point. So, it is the largest CPRC in the nation and definitely in Florida. We're sitting around 2,500 residents and we have 1,100 employees. We're actually looking to build another 59 units, the high-rise building on the island of our campus, where we've launched this campaign and we've already pre-sold about 60% of that building.
Oh, nice.
So it's an amazing campus that is just constantly evolving. Since I've been there 5 years now, we've always had a shovel in the ground. So we're always growing and always evolving with the time. It's great to be able to build things to a certain level. I think that's always I don't want to say easy thing, but it's always a promising thing to see that we're going that direction. But if we don't have the hospitality side, if we don't have the service side attached to that, we're not going to be able to maintain our occupancy. So we're located down in Fort Myers, Florida, about 3 hours from Orlando, nestled along the Coxsackie River in the Gulf of Mexico. And we're very thankful for the opportunity that we have and the location we have. We're only steps away from Sanibel.
That's nice. Yep. So obviously, I used to work at a large CCRC. And so, my title, Director of Dining Services, it probably was, we had a convenience store. We had a few other things that I was responsible for. But your title is VP of Amenities. Kind of tell us a little bit about how that came about and what your role really is. Because I'm guessing with a campus that big, it's a pretty big shoes to fill.
Yeah, so we have to break our campus apart between 3 different sectors. So we have our healthcare division. So our healthcare team oversees our skilled nursing building, our assisted living buildings, and that's about 400 staff there. And then we have our operations team that oversees our housekeeping, our maintenance, and then our project development offices. And then, of course, we have sales and marketing and HR and accounting and our foundation office. But my area is really all the lifestyle stuff. So we have a 40,000 square foot performing arts hall. We have a 400 feet auditorium. We offer concerts to the public. We have an 18-hole championship golf course. So we have a golf operations, a landscaping operation. We also have 14 dining venues across the campus. And we're open to the public, and we're also, of course, serving our residents as well. So it kind of, if you look at like a hotel setting, you have a general manager, and that's kind of what my job is to oversee the lifestyle component of the community. And the team for amenities is about 300 staff members, and we're serving our residents every day.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I would imagine a campus that size having all of those different things. It takes an army to make it all happen. So, so well, you did a presentation yesterday, and I was very intrigued by it. You talked about your loyalty program, and I want to get into that a little bit. And so, you know, before we got on here, we were talking about some technology and how important that really is, and the industry's evolving. But I want to get your take. What kind of drove you guys to develop your loyalty program? What made you think that was necessary? Like, what values have you seen coming from that?
Well, I joined the organization about 5 years ago, and we know in senior living, sometimes it's a little bit behind the current day pace when it comes to technology. And for Show Point, we used a lot of pen and paper.
Wow.
As we did the count, I think we had about 12 different small departments utilizing pen and paper. So our transportation team was using pen and paper. Our items for academy courses and events was all pen and paper. And in running multiple locations for these areas to sign up and really enroll in, which just create a lot of paperwork and a lot of miscommunication and a lot of errors. So we had that challenge of, we're behind the times from a technology standpoint. And we're also, we're open to the public from a restaurant standpoint, and we're not charging a mandatory meal plan or a declining balance there's no monthly minimum for that.
Okay.
So we needed to come up with something that could cover all these different areas, a piece of technology that can cover all these different areas, that can talk with each other, that can talk to the cafe on one side of the campus and then on the other side of the campus, and it's the same information. So we did a search, and we started to look at different pieces of technology to do this. So ultimately we struggled to find a good piece of technology that could cover these areas. And as we looked at our senior living industries, you saw some consistency there, but just didn't have the bandwidth to move a lot of those organizations away from pen and paper. So we looked at a company at the time was called Resort Suite, and they're terrible in 5-star resorts all over the world, and they were able to customize their services and come into our organization and build out a point of sale machine, a loyalty program, really a strong internal software system for us to utilize. And that's when we went down the path of coming to the agreement with them, taking on the challenge of introducing a new piece of technology for our residents and bringing that to the forefront of our community. So we did that about 5 years ago. And it's a big lift working with a company that's never been in senior living. And then the training people during the pandemic, that's always a challenge. But all in all, I'm just so thankful that we not only had the support from our residents, the support from our staff, and we saw that the future could be so much better if we just leaned into technology, we leaned into these services, and we challenged the status quo of, okay, well, we're not going to stay with a traditional healthcare system to operate our food service.
So I think about your community is unique, right? It's massive. You deal with a ton of residents. For a smaller operator, say maybe somebody who's doing 150, 200 residents, on their campus, would a program like this benefit them? Because you've got the uniqueness of being open to the public. They're probably not. And so what value do you see that bringing for someone like that with focus just on the residents and maybe family members, as opposed to a little bit broader kind of focus like you have?
Technology continues to drive changes in senior care, and that includes food service. eMenu Choice is an award-winning point-of-service application for managing the dining function in senior living communities. This mobile, touchscreen-enabled software enhances the dining experience for residents while streamlining processes for staff. The flexibility and functionality of eMenu Choice makes it an effective solution for any type of senior living environment, from independent and assisted living to skilled nursing facilities. It works for production kitchens or restaurant-style service with options for per meal or a la carte pricing. and accommodates a variety of payments, including bill to account, meal credits, and credit cards. Created by a senior care provider with more than a century of experience serving older adults, eMenu Choice eliminates communication barriers between staff and residents while enabling person-centered choices and greater resident satisfaction. eMenu Choice, transforming dining for senior living.
Yeah, I think it is great value for a community that might be at 100 individuals or 400 individuals in the community. Because when we look to train our staff, they're coming from, full service restaurants, or they're coming from the hotel business. And then we need to go to them and say, all right, I want you to learn matrix care. I want you to learn a healthcare system that is completely foreign to them. So if we have a piece of technology that is comparable to what they're used to, that helps from a retention standpoint. And then also too, you have the capabilities to add on services. So now you're not limited by what you can't do through technology. You have a platform that can grow with you. Talking to the company today that we're utilizing, we're talking about how we can now deliver out food to the pool deck, and we can individually, they can hit a QR code, they order it from the pool, and then we run it out to them at that specific chair. And they're working with MGM resorts, and they're doing their pool deck, and that's, 3,000 people on a pool deck. So for us, we're small potatoes compared to them. So,
Right.
But it's interesting because you have the bandwidth to do it. You have a piece of technology that you can grow into, and that can help you move into the future. And we know that our industry is going to continue to grow. We know that there's going to be a strong pipeline of folks that are coming into retirement ages. But at the same time, too, their expectation is going to be much higher.
Much higher.
So we need a platform that we can utilize that will be able to keep up with the customer that is experiencing what they're experiencing today.
Yeah. It's a unique proposition, what you said about you brought in a hospitality service, a hospitality technology. In the past, when I've tried to bring in hospitality point of sale, there tends to be some hesitation around, well, we don't want to do that. That's not really our vertical. Like, we'll try and figure out a workaround. So when you were doing that, what kind of challenges did you face in working with your provider to get over those hurdles, to get it to a system that would give you everything you wanted from a hospitality perspective, but still help maybe some of that healthcare piece and some of those other pieces of senior living?
Yeah, we had to break it down of just a very simple list of, all right, here's what our top 5 things that we're going to get if we stay with the current system that we have today. And then here's our top 5 things that we're going to get if we go down this path with a hospitality system. And we just saw that there's so much more value with that. For our organization specifically, it brought 12 different departments into a software. And we're managing millions of dollars here on pen and paper. Well, the loss alone with the errors of pen and paper paid for the system alone.
Yeah, I can imagine.
I mean, we have a 40-room guest house, and we're operating off pen and paper, and we're missing that. Sorry, my headphone. We're missing the opportunity to be able to offer reservations online. So people have to call in manually. So now that we have a platform that can do that online, well, that increased our booking, we increased our occupancy. Again, we paid for it on that side. So we did the cost analysis on that, and that helped us support. That was a big win. And then from a food and beverage side, we operated with a declining balance. So, we're capture ratio with a declining balance was about 140 residents participating in that whenever we had the opportunity to utilize and open it up to 1,900 residents.
Yeah.
So we're missing the opportunity to use our power for the rest of the community. So we opened it up and create a loyalty program, and that was a big sale for us. And now our residents, not only they're going to come back because of good quality and good service, but they also see that there's an incentive there. And if they have a weekly incentive of $20 to $30 sitting in their account, well, they feel the pressure to come back and utilize that. And that just keeps the recycle coming back into the restaurant.
Yeah. And I would think that having you almost have to come from a different mindset to get those residents. And I think maybe when they move into a community, you think about a well-appointed space and there's an expectation that comes with that. And so using a system and developing it the way you have kind of creates that environment where it's like, this isn't it is senior living. It's not really senior living. Like, we're here as a service to you. We're here as part of your membership, if you will.
Right.
And it changes that. And so,
That's exactly it. You gotta draw that out because ultimately we have this stigma in the industry of, it's a senior living home and, it's not a place that I'm going to go and live an active life. That's kind of the normal thought process. If we can just flip that on its head, now this is where I'm going to find life. This is where I'm going to learn something new, or I'm going to embark on something new. Well, it should match it from a technology standpoint. It should match it from just an overall service standpoint. And that's our and we want to push forward for that. If we want to make that as seamless as possible. So that transition from maybe a country club setting into a senior living setting is very comparable in those experiences. And we hope that there's more in senior living.
yeah, no, I think what you're saying makes sense. And so one thing I'm curious about, and you touched on it a little bit, was some of the staffing efficiencies. We are all commiserating. It's getting better. We feel like staffing's improving, but we're still dealing with some of that. And so when you put the system in place, like what kinds of efficiencies did you find? I'm assuming quite a bit.
Yeah. I mean, the biggest thing is counting steps. So if you can limit the amount of steps that are taken for a server, for the kitchen staff, for food runners, things of that nature. So if we're able to take an order at the table and then send it directly to the kitchen versus running across the restaurant through a POS and then back, and we utilize a restaurant it's a larger restaurant. So you've got to run at different locations for that. So you're cutting steps on that. You're cutting steps on your runners that don't have to wait essentially for in order to come through and that server to do it. So they're able to get ahead of the pace on that. That has been a big shift for us. And then the amount of return business. And that's key. I mean, we at the end of the day, our staff work for money and they need to make a decent living. So if I can turn to them and say, okay, we're putting out systems here to be able to incentivize residents to continue to come back and continue to dine with us, well, that's higher dollar ratio for them when it comes to volume. So that's a big sale.
Are you able to incentivize the staff now with having technology, like you were saying, almost, I'm not going to say tipping, because I think that's not really what you're doing, but are you able to have some kind of program where you're able to do something like that for your staff?
Yeah, I mean, we haven't started that process yet, but it is definitely a good way that we could go down to be able to find incentives with a loyalty program. We talked to the company today as far as all right, now if we wanted to do direct deposits, and what was unique is that this system will allow us to pre-order. So if I'm working in housekeeping and I go onto the app to order a chicken sandwich, well, I can pre-order it. And then from there, I can be deducted out of my payroll. And then from there, I can go pick it up at the restaurant, or we can have the team deliver for an extra charge. And you're saving on efficiency from that person, waiting in line for something, waiting for an order to be done, and it's ready to go for them. When they can enjoy the 30 minutes or 15 minutes or an hour that they have to take a break.
Yeah. And I think the revenue piece of that is so valuable too, right? Because that employee is probably spending that money somewhere.
Correct.
So
it's going to Publix or they're going to, Chipotle. And
exactly.
Spending it on your campus.
So yeah, capturing that can be a huge benefit in of itself. So wrap up here, Jason. I would love for you to share with the listeners and the operators kind of what would be your one big piece of advice that you would share if they're looking at a program like this, if they're trying to figure out technology that'll let them elevate their experiences, what would you tell them to do? And what would be that one takeaway?
Yeah, I would definitely say be bullish and take a chance, because I mean, the future is bright. The customer is going to expect it. And if you can get ahead of the curve now, the writing is on the wall, right? So if you get ahead of the curve now, you're set up for success. And that's the ultimate plan, is to be able to attract the next customer coming in and to be able to speak the same language of what they're expecting and deliver that versus that what we're all used to of like, well, we're looking at it and it's coming.
Right.
No, take the chance now and do it. I know that it's very difficult to implement technology into anything we do. But as long as you can weigh out the positive and get some of those folks that are in your community that have a little bit louder voices than the others, get them on your side, and then put them out there to sing the message. Because at the end of the day, our residents don't want to hear from somebody that, is in their 40s or 50s. They want to hear somebody that is going through the same thing that they're going through. So they want to hear from their peers. So if you can win them to your side, show them the advantages, and then get them to promote it for you, that's such a huge benefit. But you got to take chances, and the industry needs it.
Yeah, you got to embrace the tech for sure. So, well, Jason, thank you so much for taking some time away from the conference to sit down with me. I'm fascinated by what you got going there and the loyalty program, and even the whole open to the public. That's a whole nother conversation we'll have to have in the future. So, but anyway, I'll let you get back to the conference, and thanks for joining me today on Tips from Trestle.
Thank you very much, Aaron. Thank you.
So there it is, everybody. Another one in the books. Thanks again for tuning in. Please follow, like, and subscribe on YouTube, Spotify, Apple, or wherever you get your podcasts. And be sure to follow us on social media at Tips from Trestle. You can also learn more about the work I do by following me on LinkedIn, Twitter, Instagram, and even TikTok. And be sure to check out Trestle Hospitality Concepts at www.trestle. I'm your host, Aaron Fish, and this has been another episode of Tips from Trestle.